And welcome everybody. Welcome to this beautiful place again. I hope you enjoyed yesterday evening. No, you didn't enjoy. Did you enjoy yesterday evening? You see, it always takes a while to cheer up the audience, right? You all look lovely again. And I hope you have a fantastic day here at the GCCM Africa in Zanzibar. So welcome to this session, and of course a big welcome to my panelists here, which I'll give them a quick minute to introduce themselves. So stay tuned with us, and we're going to talk about the new investment models, business models, especially tipped on the submarines and the cables. What's going on, because there's a huge amount of things going on here in Africa. Finally, so happy for that. And but as said, my name is Eric, and I'm here to serve you. But we're going to listen to whatever our beautiful panelists have to share with us. So I'll give them a quick moment to introduce themselves. So Yvonne, if I may start with you, and then we'll go to the rest of the guys.
Oh, thanks, Eric, for a wonderful session. Hi, everyone. My name is Yvonne Francis Mashuda, and I'm the Regional International Wholesale Manager under Tigo Zantel and the Action Group. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We go to Kevin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kevin Mutuma. I'm based out of Nairobi. I'm representing China Mobile International as a cable operator, mobile operator, fixed wireless provider, services provider, and in many other capacities. Thank you, and nice to see you all.
Good morning. My name is Norman Kiondo. I work for the beautiful brand Tigo Zantel at the head of enterprise products, marketing, and ICT. Welcome.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the session. And Noma, we're gonna listen to you. If the floor is all yours on this beautiful morning, to take it away and to give them a nice keynote speech from Tigo Zantel. What's going on with you guys, and exciting stories. So please take it away.
Well, Eric, thank you. I hope they're exciting. You know, there's like nothing is difficult than giving a speech on something as complicated as cables after the cocktail that we had last night. So if you hear anything here that is not cable related or something that you don't understand, you can easily blame on alcohol, not me. I'm usually a good guy.
It wasn't me, yeah?
Okay, so because of that, and I forgot everything, so I had to write. I tried to read again. I know before yesterday I was remembering everything. Telecommunication ecosystem partners and investors, I mean CEOs, directors, everyone who is representing different organizations. And this also includes our partners, some partners that Tigo Zantel have invited. I'll name a few: Liquid Intelligent Telecom from Tanzania, Tata from Kenya, Wayok from Kenya, Zanlink from Zanzibar, and Rocketel from Uganda. If I didn't mention any, again, it's not me, it's alcohol. So once again, good morning.
You invited everybody. The whole world.
Wasn't it our event? Thank you. So good morning. So it is my pleasure to be here. I am very happy to meet every one of you. It has been a very good session since yesterday. I personally have been learning, unlearn and relearn again. So I thought I knew things until I met every one of you. I'm so proud to say I met almost everyone, or at least almost every organization. We had a lot of discussions. So before we go further, I want to say a warm welcome, Karibu Sana, for everyone who is the first time, visiting Zanzibar. It's a beautiful island that we have here. I hope you're all not leaving today or tomorrow. So, extend your trips, go out there, meet the locals, create a lot of memories so that you share back. You share with your friends and family when you go back home. Okay. So what are you talking about again? It's new business models and investment opportunities to meet future cable demands. Okay. So to start this, I think I mentioned this to almost everyone that I met yesterday, that if you are in this business, anything around connectivity, internet and the cables, I think Tanzania is a country that you should have your presence. Okay, why I'm saying this is because this country is, geographically blessed. So we are positioned very well as a country because we are surrounded with around 6 landlocked countries. So you have opportunity to serve a lot of countries when you're here. So when you talk about opportunities, I think it's very important that everyone remember that, and everyone get to know that, because it's something that we are doing very well. And all the private companies, I'll say all the MNOs, and I'll speak a bit more about Tigo Zantel, together with the government. It has been a mission to make this country an ICT hub in East Africa, because we have all the resources. We have two major cables here, CCOM and the famous Easy, that I'm proud to say that Tigo Zantel is also a part of the shareholders, so we can serve these countries. Okay, so again, I continue to insist that you need to have your presence here if these opportunities are something that you want to capture. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, the government and all other private operators are working very hard to make this country an ICT hub, because as I mentioned, we have around 6 landlocked countries around us. So Axian as a group, that owns Tigo Zantel, has been investing a lot on cables. As I mentioned, that we are through WIOC, we are also shareholders of Easy, and it's also our plan to continue to invest in cables so that we continue to serve these markets. Okay, so I think if you look at the data, sub-Saharan Africa, that include us and other countries to the south, are the fastest growing in terms of internet bandwidth consumption. Okay, we're growing year on year around 51%. That's like the highest growth around. And if you also look at the internet penetration, the numbers are telling us it's around 26% internet penetration in these countries. So there's still a very big market to serve, and it's growing very fast. So you still have a lot of opportunities. Okay, so they say today, and I want to believe that United States is one of the countries that is, very well connected with a lot of cables, from East Coast and the South Coast. But Africa is also getting there. We know that there are a lot of some new cables that are coming. So people also continue to invest in this side. And as I mentioned, that opportunities are very huge. So yeah, that was very much it. Again, thank you so much for listening. And again, welcome to Zanzibar.
A warm applause. Well done. Thank you so much, Noma. So give us just a little scoop, because I always like to know the latest, and I'm like that. What is the latest which will come? What's coming next? What can we expect from you guys?
Okay. So from Tigo Zantel is already so many things. As I mentioned, we are the company working with the government to ensure that we can serve the landlocked country. So that's a very big one for us as a company.
A big project.
It is a very big one. We are continuing to invest in our data centers. I know data centers topic was yesterday, but here in Tanzania, in Tigo Zantel, is you have the only tier 3 data center in this country. So if you want that service, come to us very quick because it's almost full, but we continue to invest. So we're building another one that will be tier 3 as well. And all this is to just ensure that everyone from MNOs to every other operator can serve and service the people very well, because our mission as a company and as a group is to improve lives of the people through digital inclusion.
Wow. Sounds amazing, and congratulations on that. And
thank you so much.
And all the best for the future.
Thank you so much.
Noma, thank you so much again. That was a story, man. That's good. Well done. So continuing, I mean, we heard from Tigo Zantel already some very exciting strategies, and especially on the investment side, and to make sure that the future demand is, let's say, we are prepared for the future demand. But how prepared can you be when I mean, yesterday we heard that only for the data centers, what the need will be is 1,000 megawatt. So that is sort of like couple of hundred data centers. So imagine the cables and back and forth, everything. It's amazing. So investments, yeah, they're there. So Yvonne, if I may ask you, and we heard already from your colleague, of course, what's going on, but can you tell us a little bit more, especially for the landlocked countries. What is the landscape there to dive a bit more in deep? What Nomo was kindly to tell us in his keynote speech. What is there to expect? What are the challenges? What you see, and of course the opportunities and trends.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Thanks, Norman, for a wonderful keynote speech. Eric, what I see right now, speaking of the landlocked country, I'll speak, probably take one example as a case study, let's say Malawi. You know, these countries are still untapped markets. It's a virgin market, and there's a need for so many private companies, especially with government, of course, to invest into these markets. I'll take an example of Malawi. I was there a couple of months ago. The connectivity is not yet there. I mean, it's not there yet. Rural areas, there's no connection. Just big players are only, I can say maybe Airtel, and the biggest was actually Airtel. And you know that we have so many big players in Africa who are servicing other countries, but not into these landlocked countries. So I see there's a biggest challenge whereby so many areas are not connected. People are still behind. And we have seen in so many forums that people are discussing with this theme of connected, connect the unconnected, but still they have not reached so many markets, so many potential areas like these landlocked countries. So my take is, speaking of Tanzania, because now Tigo Zante is here in Tanzania, and we are working very closely with the government. And the most investment that is done in the government is via national ICT. I mean, the ICT, the backbone in Tanzania. Is for us to change the model, the business model, the pricing, the terms of investing into these landlocked countries.
What's changing then? What's the different in the approach?
Right now we are working on partnership with the government, because we know there is a certain investment being made some previous, in years back. But okay, the market is still not, the opportunities are still there, and people have not yet been reached, while we have already done a very big investment here in Tanzania. So we had to look at the challenges. People are complaining about costs, especially these big players, and people are looking for alternative routes in order to reach these landlocked countries. So for us as Action Tigo, Tigo Zantel, we saw that there's a very huge need for us to partner with government, probably having a very bulk capacity, speaking of 100 to 150 gig, and in order to service these countries, us directly, but also using other players in terms of partnership in order to reach these landlocked areas that are totally unconnected, especially the rural areas. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Kevin, what is your take? CMI, China Mobile International, of course, you make huge, but enormous investments. What you're doing, guys, and congratulations on this one, and especially on a minimum 2 or even more to come cables, submarine cables towards Africa. But what can you share with the audience? What is your, let's say, from a CMI point of view, your take on Africa? And how do you see, let's say, how are you supporting actually to connect the unconnected, to make sure that you bring, let's say, be a gateway to the rest of the world? So how are you actually supporting this continent?
Thanks, Eric. And again, good to see you on the panel. Now, China Mobile is obviously an operator. So we understand the challenges of operators having run an operation, the largest operation in the world in China. And one of the things we're bringing to Africa is that expertise, running an operation of about 950 million subscribers. We know how challenging that could be. So we bring in that expertise of years of experience into Africa. We also have seen the infrastructure gaps that are there in Africa. And that's why our flagship project in Africa has been to invest in a subsea cable called To Africa, alongside others like Meta, Orange, MTN, and other operators in Africa. And this is going to be the largest cable in the world, 45,000 kilometers long. So this is a complete game changer. I'm glad to say this cable will be landing in Tanzania, where we are, alongside other 33 countries in Africa. So that's just the first step China Mobile has taken to actually put its money where its mouth is. We believe in Africa. We believe in the potential of Africa. Yesterday, we were speaking on data centers as a next gap that is there. And we believe that when you fuse this ecosystem together, then you start actually creating a vibrance in the market. You start creating a digital ecosystem that can support cloud services, can support IoT, can support 5G, and that's where we want to play. Recently, we've also been setting up infrastructure in terms of POPs within the East Africa and Southern Africa region. We then will extend these services inland into landlocked countries. And we believe there is a fusion between landlocked countries and subsea cables. So the hubs that are existing today, South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, will become even more critical in extending inland capacity from those sort of subsea hubs into landlocked countries. We still have, for example, with an example of Kenya, where we have about 6 cables landing today. We've seen what that has done to the GDP. We spoke about IGDP yesterday, the GDP that is contributed just by infrastructure investment in internet. So we have seen that accelerate the tech ecosystem in Kenya. And I believe that's the next frontier here with Silicon Zanzibar as one of the initiatives that's been launched and is underway to bring more tech investment here. We believe Tanzania is then positioned as a gateway for the other 8 countries that border. Actually, there are 8 countries that have borders with Tanzania, and they could benefit heavily in having the right kind of infrastructure here in terms of subsea cables, data center, and not forgetting a very good terrestrial network. Just to add on that terrestrial network element, today it's a very monopolistic approach in Tanzania, but I believe with the right partnership between private sector, public sector, like Yvonne mentioned, then you can start actually accessing the masses where the unconnected are. So that's our view as China Mobile. We want to bring that expertise, that infrastructure knowledge. We've been investing in cables for the last 25 years ourselves. And so this is just one of the many to come.
And it is a huge one, which is coming. Okay, Yvonne, you tipped already on a couple of challenges which you see. So let's go from glass half empty now. Let's go to glass half full, because that's where I like to be. Challenges are tough, but again, they are there to overcome. And you mentioned already that partnerships, I mean, changing the business model into, let's say, a more partnership strategy model-ish, if I may call it like this, which is difficult enough. And to talking together or partnering up with governments. I mean, not here in Tanzania, but in Africa as a whole, is not always the easiest. Mind you, in Europe, it's just so difficult. So I'm very happy that the governments in Africa, they opened up, and they see that there is that actually the people who live there, and not only the unconnected, but everybody will benefit from it, and it's good for GDPs. It's good for, it lifts up the whole continent. So on the opportunity side, where do you think that in a short term we can expect, let's say, some opportunities which is really, which we really can grab, which you really can see?
I think there's so multiple opportunities into these different countries. Take an example of Tanzania itself. We only have one company that has launched the 5G. So if these private sectors and the government, government and private sectors cooperate and try to improve this business model in terms of investment, I think there are several opportunities in different sectors in terms of social economic perspectives. Speaking of, let's say, Malawi, or I would say Rwanda, there are so many projects that are going on in there. There are big projects that are taking place in such countries. And I think in terms of ICT, there are so many chances for big investors to come and invest in there in order to enable socioeconomic activities to take place.
Okay, hold this point.
Yes.
Because what we saw in the past is that, yeah, I will invest, I will do this once this is there. Cloud providers. I will go once the data center is there. Yeah, but the data center, yeah, I will be there once the landing station is there or what. So I'm happy to see that it's not only in the mind, but in actual fact that things are moving. I mean, I'm coming to this continent happily already since more than 35 years. And I saw the complete evaluation of how it went in Africa wide. So I'm so happy to hear from you that, that those challenges have overcome. The knowledge is there. And also thanks to companies like CMI, to bring expertise, to bring knowledge, and that you say, okay, finally we can combine the strength and move on. And people, it will move on fast. now we're going to move on. So sorry to interrupt you, but I'm very happy that you mentioned this point.
Oh, okay.
Please continue.
Yeah, and maybe to enhance or emphasize, I can just narrate more of there's this project going on in Congo. The government of Tanzania is expecting we can say, like, looking for much chances to explore further opportunities in Congo. Right now, we are talking of prices in terms of bandwidth. I heard after several surveys and several information, price per MB, let's say dedicated internet in Congo, price per MB is around $800. In Tanzania, specifically, say there is some another region, dedicated internet price per MB is around $65, going to $50, depends on negotiations. In Malawi, price per MB dedicated is around $70. This is Africa. While in Europe, where the market is saturated, we don't even speak of $10, $20. It's actually lesser than that.
Less than $1.
Yeah. So you see, there's so many opportunities in Africa. Yeah, in terms of investment in ICT. So these private sectors are trying to explore and trying to connect these unconnected areas, but truly they cannot do this in different projects if they do not get support from the government. When I speak of such several projects, like let's say now when I'm talking of Congo, there are so many projects going on in there, in mining, in real estate, in tourism, and so forth. Coming to Tanzania, now we're in Zanzibar. There are so many tourist places here. There are so many housing, real estate, housing, like projects coming up, and all these cannot come up without internet. We just need connection. Speaking of these countries like Malawi, Rwanda, Uganda, all these, Burundi, there are big projects coming up in infrastructure, in roads, in hospitals, real estate, and all these cannot go without connectivity. Health services, all these requires connectivity. So yes, there are some forums speaking of advancement of connectivity in Africa. Yes, we can say we are somewhere there, but we are not there. So there are so many opportunities to be explored in these countries, in these regions. And I believe we need more investors to take chances into these cables that are coming in. Right now, we are talking of to Africa. Kevin has mentioned there's peace cable coming in. You can just see briefly, let's say like Tanzania, right now we only have 2 cables. I saw 3 because we have CIS cable, CCOM and Easy. But the most cables, like the most famous cables that are operating in a high dimension here in Tanzania is CCOM and Easy. You can imagine like the whole big country like this only have 2 cables. Now we are thinking of another cable coming in, this, which is peace and to Africa. So all these are chances to be explored. And I believe after us having such investment here in Tanzania, we'll be able to connect so many areas here in Tanzania with very reasonable prices for people to have a wonderful service in terms of connectivity, but not only in Tanzania, but also to these landlocked countries that are depending on Tanzania to have such socioeconomic activities going on. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. No. It's good to hear. Kevin, on your side, where do you see the uplift? What can you add to what Yvonne was kindly telling us?
One, I think we are seeing a lot of, let's say, explosive growth in terms of data consumption. It's happening across the world, accelerated by COVID, for example. Statistics show that on average, demand per user increases 20 to 30% year on year. So if you used to spend 10 gig on your mobile phone every month, that is going to grow 30%. and that's going to be replicated across Africa. So that demand of internet consumption will keep on growing. I keep saying internet is an insatiable product. The more you get, the more you need. We were okay, Eric, 10 years, 15 years ago when we had dial-up internet. We could send emails. We were happy. But 10 years, 15 years later, the internet is still a bit slow, still a bit sluggish.
It's never fast enough.
It's never fast enough. You want more, you want more. So that's where we see Africa headed to. We'll get to a point where we need more, our children need more, our schools need more, hospitals need more, hospitality sector needs more, and that has to be availed in advance. That's where initiatives like To Africa and other initiatives also on the terrestrial networks become very critical now. You have to prepare for that demand in advance, data centers in advance, CDNs and caches in country in advance. That's when you can meet the demand of a youthful population like Africa. That's whose average age is about 20. So you can imagine by 2050, when the population doubles, then the cables that are there today will not be able to serve that demand. We get this question a lot. To Africa carries 180 terabytes, which is higher than all the cables in Africa today combined. Where will this capacity go? I even say it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough, and we will need more cables on this continent.
Start planning.
Yeah, start planning. We'll need more data centers. We'll need more terrestrial networks. We'll need more of Tigo's rolling out 4G and 5G to meet the demand of the population. So one of the challenges I've seen is that obviously it's very competitive. The landscape price points are dipping every day, but I don't think the volume has compensated for that dip in pricing. So yes, there's been a race to the bottom in terms of pricing, but the volumes have not yet picked up, and that's where the gap is. I believe the gap is in making sure we have enough applications, enough need to the citizens, to the population to actually use the internet, and that's where the volume is going to come.
You both mentioned that and you call it the race to the bottom, and this is something we saw around the world in the US, in Europe, and also in Asia, and you both mentioned that because from my point of view, from an investment point of view, I could also say, my return on investment I can calculate for the next 2 years, but not for the next 5 years. Where will the MB price dedicated internet, where will my price be? Today I start planning to invest, it's at $50, $50 or whatever, but maybe in 2 years it will be 30. So that's also, let's say, a threat in the SWOT model of but I think we should turn it around. It's not half empty, because it's there. The demand will be so huge. So actually invest double and make sure you go to other countries as well. Tanzania first, of course, but invest double, because then you will benefit. That's my take on it, because I talk to some investors and they say, how much? Where's my return? Take other countries, go on a consortium, move there. I mean, I used to be in charge for Orange for Europe for 11 years. Long time ago, guys, long time ago. You were not even born. And no, but those were the discussions we had. And back then it was, investing in ACE, that was the West African cable. And so a long time ago, but those are, thoughts that investors do have. But I always say, turn it around. Make sure that you invest enough, double it, because it will come back. You will be benefited for your investment. It's all fine. By the end of the day, guys, it's this continent, too long. too long. It has to be taken too long. Come on, move. And I'm happy to hear that it's now moving. And finally, the chain, because it's a chain. Because if I go into a hotel, I mean, or not me, I'm not, but other people, they don't ask for what kind of body lotion do you have, or what kind of soap do you have, or but what is the color of the towels? No. First question is, hi, Wi-Fi. What's the password? What's the password? Yeah. But I always say in Africa, you know what, guys? Hey, enjoy first. Take 5 minutes, enjoy it, and then ask for the Wi-Fi password, because it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. People forget.
It still only takes 5 minutes. That's the thing.
There you go.
Until you need the internet. But just to add on what you're saying, you spoke of Europe, and this is a classic example of what volumes and price, how they have to go hand in hand.
Competition.
There has to be enough competition to bring down the prices, but there also has to be enough demand to bring up the volume. When the volume and the price are almost in harmony, then there is enough cake for everyone to go around. I'll give you an example. In Europe, cross-border 10 gigs, 100 gigs, you can get it sub to $2,000. That's Frankfurt, Amsterdam, gigs, London, France.
Mega.
Yeah.
Giga.
Yeah. We're speaking giga.
Yeah.
You can get a connection between Amsterdam, Frankfurt, London, Marseille, 100 gigs at a sub 2K. Yeah. That's not even the price of an STM1 in Tanzania today. STM1 is 155 megabits. So we're still speaking STM1, STM4, STM16 in Africa, but the world has moved to gigabits and terabytes. And that's where really the augmentation is misaligned. The volumes are still very low in Africa because of investment in access networks.
Exactly. Sorry to interrupt, but that's exactly the point I wanted to make. Because there is no investment, because maybe my return of investment. No, because you will not have any return if you don't connect not only the unconnected, but all the households, because now you don't have, let's say, that revenue, as an ISP or as an operator from because it's too expensive for them. So once the price are dropping, it's a good thing. You know why? Not only because there's competition and everything is balanced. Also, you can connect so many more people, and they can be all part of this global family, and then boost up, because that's it. Sorry for the interruption, but that's
it's precisely the point. And that's why we need more of the international community to plug in. The cost of infrastructure is still very high, especially digging fiber. It takes an average of $10,000 to build a kilometer of fiber. If you look at how much fiber is required in Africa to connect the unconnected, we're speaking billions of dollars. 100 billion would not be enough to connect the population in Africa. So we cannot depend on local investment alone. We need international community to come in. There needs to be partnerships with the likes of mobile operators. And that speaks into even some of the agenda we have today about partnering between OTTs, mobile operators, fixed government, to actually bring that infrastructure, bulk infrastructure in country that then unlocks the next frontier for growth.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, please
on what Kevin was narrating. Speaking of, let's say, Tanzania in the backbone investment, previously we were talking of how much, $6.5 million for 10G. Imagine that's 10G. So an investor will think of, if I put in my $6.5 million, and that's only the backbone. I have not even pushed content yet to reach any of the border, let's say. And how much will I sell this? I mean, what price will be for this internet? So you see, that kind of environment was complicating everything in terms of investment, and still we cannot now fulfill the theme of connect the unconnected. This is why also the government had to sit down and think like, okay, now we have, even if we have spent so much money in terms of investment, we need to rethink on how we can partner with these international players to plug in order to reach these several areas that needs connection, specifically for Tanzania and the border countries. Yeah.
You know what is for me as well, and a return on investment, a smile from the people in the village. No. Think about it. It is the most beautiful return on investment, and not everything should be in dollars or pounds or whatever. Or forget the pound, by the way, because they crashed. No, but you see, and to do something good. I mean, there are more ways to have your strategy for investment. Call me an idealist, fine, I don't care. But nothing more beautiful. I mean, I'm not saying that I want to see every little kid in every village in Africa with a cell phone, because it's also not so good. But at least to have the access to the rest of the world.
Yes.
It is their birthright.
Yeah.
That's what I think. So, and that's why I say a bit idealistic, I know, but also a smile for me is also actually the most beautiful return on investment. Do we agree? I didn't hear that. Do we agree that the smile is the most beautiful? It is, guys. It is, guys. All right. Slowly wrapping it up. What can we maybe Kevin, you can start. But what's out there? What's there to expect? I mean, I want to have your glass bowl predictions. It's not possible, I know, but what do you think is coming to this beautiful continent, and what do you foresee what's coming?
There's a lot coming, Eric. I think first of all, technology is evolving very quickly, and to some extent, we are even unable to catch up with the technology trends. For example, the latest technological cable developments using SDM multiplexing allow cable operators, for example, to co-own subsea cables without having to actually share equipment. So that's definitely an advancement in the right direction, because you're then not tied to lengthy upgrades of subsea cables, like we've seen with, I'm sorry to say, likes of Easy works on the East Coast, where the entire consortium is held up in an upgrade schedule that's not in their control. So you run out of capacity on your subsea cable, and you probably have to wait another year before the upgrade is done.
We had multiple examples, huh?
Yeah,
multiple examples.
So going forward and starting with True Africa in Africa, each member has complete flexibility of their own upgrades, own equipment. You can light up your equipment at 1 terabit, 15 terabit, whatever, from day one, and it doesn't have to affect any other consortium member. So that's an advancement in the right direction. I'm seeing the next thing being open access. There are very many closed markets in Africa where you're restricted in terms of cross connections, restricted in terms of where you host your CLS, where you host your data. And that's changing slowly. Again, we've taken a principle within the consortium to say, as a matter of priority, each cable will land in a carrier neutral data center as a priority, where the entire ecosystem, ISP, enterprise, internet service provider, MNO carrier can pick up services.
All in the same meet-me room.
All in the same meet-me room with no cross-connect rates or exorbitant cross-connect rates. Same like Europe. So that's a game changer for Africa, because we will then start seeing that stifled growth that has been there start to blossom, because that's where the gap has been. As we say, the volume has been too little. And I believe that's because of some of the policies and how the cables were done before. The next thing is, of course, we are moving away from connecting Africa to Europe, which has been the trend for the last 15 years. We're now connecting Africa to the rest of the world. So again, just to borrow from To Africa, we are connecting 3 continents in one cable, 46 countries. That changes the landscape completely in terms of how I can get my data from India to Kenya to Tanzania to Nigeria in a single path. So MPLS obviously changes completely as well. Things like traffic patterns or latency become a big change. We can then go to Middle East without having to go to Europe. Then that changes the landscape because you can now take Microsoft from Oman, for example, which is their newest hub in Middle East, rather than taking it from Europe at 60 milliseconds from the East Coast. That then has an effect on the population, the user experience. When the user experience increases, our experience has been the consumption increases.
Usage goes up.
Yeah,
Simple.
usage goes up.
Simple.
When you have good internet, you consume more. You feel like now watching a video, streaming F1. I'm a fan of Formula One.
That's why I'm Dutch. So, Max was world champion.
Yes, yes.
Sorry, I have to make that point. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's what's coming next. And when, as you're saying, every person in Africa is able to access quality internet, not just for entertainment, but for education needs, then we can say we have we're reducing the digital divide that's been there in Africa for so long. So I'm excited about the future. The outlook is very exciting. And both from technology, from capital, we're also seeing a lot of investment coming into Africa. As we spoke about yesterday, data centers alone require $5.6 billion just to catch up with the demand that will be there in the next.
Estimated.
Yeah, estimated. And that only looks at data center space based on content seated outside. When we start thinking like Africans will also create their own content, will want to create their own video, and
hopefully
host
it will
it locally.
Stay in Africa, the content.
Then
that's important.
Exactly. Then you're speaking of even more. So I think now that you're in Tanzania, for example, there needs to be more carrier neutral data centers. 2 or 3 data centers are not enough. We've seen, for example, what has happened in Kenya. When the infrastructure came, then the demand rose. So there's about 6, 7 carrier neutral data centers, and that are actually getting filled up very quickly. So then that attracts the hyperscalers, the cloud service providers, and then that creates better ecosystem for the internet. So there's a lot that will come to Africa and East Africa generally. Tanzania will benefit from it. I'm glad that we're having this conversation at the right time, because this is a time for even investors to actually start thinking, what role can I play? Is it on the access? Is it on the backbone? Is it on the policy side? Because we also need to work to lobby policy to change. We still have some very old policies that are affecting growth in some markets. So is it on the peering side? Because internet exchange is also very, very common. Is it on the M&A side? You can also invest on the subsea cable without having to be in the consortium as a shadow investor. There are many models of how you can plug in. And I think it's a right time to be having these conversations. So I'm excited about the future.
Fantastic. So Yvonne, your outlook, which is there, and maybe some already famous, nice last words for this nice takeaway. So, what's yours?
Thank you, Eric. What I can say is the future is exciting. The future is digital, and Tanzania is ready to participate in that digital mold in order to move forward. As Kevin has narrated previously, we had so many complications in terms of players being able to transit capacities with cross-connect charges, and of course, I can say I'm also among the people to be blamed, because we played part on cross-connect, because there was so many competition. People are transiting capacity in different paces, and at the same time, there's investment model is not the same. Let's say you're having a competitor like Liquid has about 100 gig plus, and then the other one has none, and yet they don't want to pay. They want to transit capacity for free and without paying the cross-connect and disrupt the market. But right now, it's a good chance that players operators are joining hands together, like in terms of partnership and not competitors, you know, in order to stimulate this theme of connect the unconnected. Like Kevin was narrating that also the investment models via the government, the policies through regulators and all that stuff used to be complicated. But right now, it seems like the government understands that the policymakers also taking chances to, you know, to ease these policy investments in order to, you know, for bigger players to come in. So what I can say is I see Africa, East Africa, Tanzania as a digital hub, like hospitals are connected, schools are connected, tourist sector is connected, like it's connection everywhere. Because imagine when you narrated about this cable of to Africa, there will be open access, there's no cross connect, you're able to do the upgrade at your own pace.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. So all these are chances for us to grow further, not only to connect Tanzania, East Africa, but Africa at large, yeah, in order to run the race. I mean, at least to be approaching US and other continents the way they are connected. So what I can say is I'll also take this time even to encourage investors that people should not be scared now to come to Tanzania, especially for Tigo Zantel. Tigo Zantel has now come in a different way. We are changing the game right now under action. And we do not have such issues of cross-connect when we are doing business in terms of capacity models. And at the same time, like I explained, we are now finalizing the last theme with the government in order to do this backhaul business in a clear way. We are helping the government because, you know, the government cannot do everything on their own. They need support from private sectors as well. So this is a high time for other players to come, talk to us. Let's work together and fulfill this theme of connect the unconnected areas in a high dimension. Thank you very much.
Now that was a statement, right?
Any question from the audience?
They don't have any questions. Do you have any questions?
Comments?
There you have. Please.
Ladies in tech.
Thank you. My name is Salma. I am working with Tigo Zantel and Axian. Actually, this is not a question. I am just adding ice to the cake. Like from what my colleagues has just said, Tigo Zantel, we have known the secret of working with government. And actually we had challenges in terms of right of way, in terms of when an MNO wants to extend fiber connecting to the building or offering service to the others. But recently we had a session with the government and they promised to oversee, actually relook on the cost per kilometers, which they used to charge the MNOs in case they wanted to extend fibers. And again, taking the advantage of the influx of many cables into Tanzania and the hugely investment of the Axian, the group with which is owning Tigo and Zantel currently. I just want to echo what Yvonne has just said. Tigo Zantel will be untouchable in terms of the revision price per meg for data, quality of services in terms of voice, data centers, and now we are currently hosted a local cache here in TZ, and these are just few to mention because of the time. But again, see us in the world, Tigo Zantel.
Yay!
Hi, Yvonne, it's for you. I know
okay.
Kevin for a long time. I've been following the Axian Group quite a lot. I understand this is the mother company who has bought Tigo. Is that correct? Yes, I understand it's the Axian Group who purchased the stakes in Tigo.
Yes.
So I've been, because, you know, I'm come from the West and I've seen that they acquired a couple of operations in Senegal, which was Tigo also. Now it's free. We have also the operations in Togo. Actually, I was at the inauguration 3 years ago. My question is the philosophy of the Axian Group to apply the same strategy in Senegal and in Togo is the same as in Tanzania? Or do you see, what can you share on the strategical drive behind those acquisition? Is there a clear plan, or are you trying to capture markets that are of special growth that are deemed under competitive.
Thanks, Dylan. Thank you. Yes, you're right, as per your narration, that Action has acquired different operators in different countries, especially also West Africa being included. Policies cannot be the same because each country has its own way of running a business, depends on the market and how the business models are according to the nations. But what I can tell you is the Action wants to become the most leading, I can say the most leading organization in 5 years. I mean, we have a long plan of 5 years to come. Like we need to inject in infrastructure, there's injecting improvement of connectivity, injecting backhaul connectivity in terms of the landlocked countries and the rest. So what I can explain is since Action took charge for Tigo Zantel, the company has injected more than $300 million, $300,000 million in order to improve services, connectivity, and infrastructure at large. So like Salma, the way Salma was narrating, what we are promising you is, apart from the philosophies that being treated differently, it depends on the country itself. Tanzania as Tanzania is different via this investment of Action. This is why the very first take was to work closely with the government in order to make sure we tackle this challenge of connectivity to landlocked countries, because among the 5 big players we are mentioning in the market, we have such Airtel, MTN, and the rest who are also servicing the landlocked countries, and they are also our key partners in production. So when Action was coming in, they had to look at the challenges of why can't we partner further with these key players and other reason that is causing us not to deliver the service at large into these landlocked countries. So Action has come in a different way, in a positivity manner. First, not only to develop what they have acquired from this from the previous investors, but to improve and to sort the challenges that through us as Action, we'll be able to deliver this connectivity at large. I don't know if I've answered your question or you need more. It's clear. Okay. So I know definitely with you, Dylan, right now is this is the right time for us to work closely. I know you've been running to the government and skipping us, but now you don't need to go. You don't need to go.
Was he? Was he doing that?
Yeah.
Oh, bad boy. Bad boys, bad boys.
Yeah. So we are here. We are here for you, and we enable you to go wherever you want to go, as long as it's it's about the landlocked country issue, and also within Tanzania province, I'll say. Yeah.
I'm sure you're gonna work it out.
Yeah.
More questions.
Quick comment, Eric. I think the floor is now open. You are cutting us out, but now it's okay. Everybody can say. There's this trend globally that OTTs are now getting into undersea cables. I mean, Google just landed Equano, and as you can see, to Africa, the majority shareholding is with Meta, and the rest of the rest of OTTs are going to go deeper into even the terrestrial segments. So for example, we've seen Google in California already started the fiber connectivity, and Elon Musk with Starlink is also shooting at satellites across the world to do connectivity business. So to African telco and the rest of telcos and MNOs are struggling, especially in the Europe mature market, to get their business model right. But I think African telcos are lucky because one, the terrestrial segment is still very big and is the one that's contributing most in terms of the pricing. The web segment today is more or less under $1, but terrestrial segment across is still the most expensive part of it. So this is why I say African operators today are lucky. And the thing to do now is to start not waiting for investors capital to come from wherever it needs to come from, but for Africans themselves to start seizing this opportunity and invest in cross-country connectivity from East Coast to West Coast, from South Africa to Egypt, to ensure that this segment is sort of consolidated, so that once these OTTs come, they move into terrestrial, then we can now do partnership on that terrestrial segment as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. More to come here. Now you're opening up, huh, guys?
Thank you. My name is Joseph. I work with Tata Communications. So I'm glad to know, Kevin, you're a fan of Formula One. It may please you to note that Tata is the accredited partner for Formula One delivery globally. So we make sure that all the streaming comes to your phone. So that's as much as my commercial minute goes. But now here is the comments. First, maybe just to get some reflections, because I think we're getting these extra capacities, and it's very exciting to imagine the future. And at the same time, we are seeing more and more of the IXPs explosion and the growth and the caching, local caching. So it's a bit of a double whammy. As the capacity is going up, we're also seeing the demand for that international piece also, on some sort of a decline. And today, I think I think the average is about 65% of all IP requirement is perhaps local. So maybe it's good to get what your thoughts are on exactly how we will be able to make full use of these extra capacities that are coming in. That's just one part. The second part is maybe just to very much echo what my colleague Juma is saying, and perhaps where we need to really pay attention is how we work that private-public partnership between the private sector and the government sector. And I could see Tigo is really trying to take the lead in trying to engage the government so that they can sweat the assets that have been put down by the government for the terrestrial connectivity. Maybe similar actions in other neighboring countries, Kenya, Uganda, how we can use those particular assets, because I think that's really a missing link when it comes to penetration and lowering of cost, is on how well we can bring to bear that sort of cooperation. Thank you.
Any comment? You want to comment on this one, Kevin?
Okay. I think I'll take
challenging
those,
you a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Did you hear that?
Maybe I can challenge him as well. Now that Tata handles the Formula One data streaming, how much data does one Formula One car on a race day maybe derive? Because I see Oracle Cloud is running the data for Formula One. How does that work on your side?
I may not have the exact statistics of per vehicle, but what I can tell you is every race is a momentous installation. I mean, we put in as much as 100 gig of capacity, say for instance, if it's in Monaco or whatever, and similar collocation capacities, which we all strip down and move on to the next race. So it's a huge installation. I know it's minimum of 100 gig that we put in, and at times it could even go higher than that, depending on what is the anticipated digital consumption for these particular races. But I could get you more specific details now that you are a fan on the sidelines.
Thanks.
Just to make sure that we hear the board radios, right?
Yeah.
Almost real time with all the, but where the, am I driving now? So we all know. Any other questions? I saw in the back there was, yes.
Maybe as you do that, just to answer your question, you're saying, yes, internet consumption, international consumption is actually going down because more and more data is localized. It's true. This is a trend we're observing in many markets, especially in Kenya, where Google, Facebook, Netflix all have their caches in country. So one thing that will happen, we have to shift our model to who we are serving. We've been serving ISPs for that market. We've been selling to them. Now they can get that content locally. It means then the next customers will be the Netflixes, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world. They then become the actual consumers of that international traffic. So you'll see many companies adopting a model where they collaborate with OTTs to get that traffic out of the country, especially in areas where there is still not yet investment by some of these OTTs on the cables. At the same time, I believe you still can't have all the content local. We are not yet there as a continent. So there still will be content that will be sourced from other continents, and that will continue growing, especially if we remove some of the barriers of access that are there, affordability of smartphones being one of them, access networks growing, the content that we need from international will grow. So I still believe it's a volume versus price versus affordability thing. And I've seen markets that have launched 5G, for example, start consuming more international bandwidth all of a sudden, even if the local content is there. So I think that will still grow.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Anatori Lelo. I'm heading the B2B sales at Tigo Zantel. So I just want to add some few comments on these discussions. One, you said everyone need to be ready to tap this opportunity that is there. The investment has been done, it is coming, but we need to be prepared in different aspects. One, creating some content that will fit Africa with different communities, schools, and whatever the segmented community that we can classify them. So as Tigo, are we ready? The question is yes, we are ready. We are doing a lot of investment right now, and it's because we know the future is exciting, right? When you started to build a data center, the question was who will come and collocate here. But in 1 year down the line, it's full. Now we're building another one. So that confidence needs to be there. Exactly. Yeah, but this one need a support from the government now. Policies and regulation need to support these investments, these initiatives which are coming. So at least the investors can have that confidence, say, I'm putting my money here, but it will come back. So it's very important, I think, for the African countries to look into these policies and regulation that will support the digital inclusion at large. Yeah. So that is something that we wanted to add. So at least everyone can be ready to take that opportunity. The demand is there, no question about it, but how we're approaching it, that's a very good question for us to think about it. Thanks.
And thank you very much for your remarks. So by the end of the day, we talk about partnership, right? It is all about partnership with governments, with competitors, with friends, enemies, whatever it is. Work together and make it happen. And again, I would like to thank Yvonne. Been an honor having you. Kevin as well. Thank you so much for jumping in last minute. But thank you for sharing your thoughts, your ideas, and also to you guys, to the audience. Thank you so much for your input as well.